directors, me being one of them. Keith Young is one. He's out in Singapore. He's like the finance and ops director. John Eidson, he runs his own marketing firm out in Boston. He's the marketing director. And then we have Louisa Palma. She used to work with the UN and a lot of other organizations. She's like the social rights and women's movement person for the foundation. So she finds a lot of charities and social rights things to kind of work on for us as well. And then there's 2 developers that are part of the foundation as well.
Okay.
And that's it. Literally, those are the people that are actually a part of the organization itself. Everybody else that's in there are volunteers, right? So there's at least like 120 that are on there that are volunteers or something like that. And they come in and out as they're needed. They're part of the community, but they're not literally a part of the foundation itself. They're just volunteers. So it's amazing how much of the stuff really actually gets done by people who absolutely get zero out of it. Even the foundation directors, they don't get anything.
Mm-hmm.
So the money that comes in is really is used for like marketing and development of like Loaf Wallet, which is the wallet that's used for Litecoin.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's created by the foundation, and then developing for the actual currency itself will help out with that too.
Interesting.
Great. And are you funded directly from Litecoin, or do you solicit donations from other areas?
Yeah, donations come in from anywhere.
Okay.
It can be dollars, Bitcoin, Litecoin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Because a lot of times the people that are involved with Litecoin or have an affinity for Litecoin are also into Bitcoin, and a lot of people came from that community. So it's we always try and make sure people understand that we're there to complement Bitcoin. We're really not trying to take anything over. We're not trying to compete necessarily with them. That's why it's a different hashing algorithm. Everything was set up by Charlie to be a complement, not to challenge.
Right. Oh, cool. So if we look at some of the stuff you guys have been doing around adoption, I mean, we've seen you guys have become part of the this fight club, I want to call it. The UFC. Sorry, you've been part of the UFC, and I'll say 2 things. One is, as far as raising awareness, that has done an amazing job of raising awareness about Litecoin on ways I would never have imagined. But the flip side would be, why the UFC?
So I'll tell you, we got a lot of guff for taking a place on a mat for one event with the UFC, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything from, your logo is so small, you can barely see it, nobody's going to care anyway, to, why did you just blow some money on a sponsorship for one event? And, how is that supposed to progress crypto? And,
I saw all those tweets going on Charlie's.
Oh my gosh, it just went nuts. And luckily there's supporters out there that understand and believe what we're doing too, like Crypto Wendy O out of California. She's a marketing person. And
we know Crypto Wendy.
Wendy's fabulous. And so she was like, look, I understand what you're trying to do. And so really with the UFC, that was really just to kind of open up the doors for a lot of other possibilities, right?
Sure.
The UFC itself is a great establishment to start with because it's a global brand. And really our focus is to try and be a global currency.
Yep.
Yeah. And you've had other people in the past, other currencies in the past who have sponsored individual fighters, right? And, that's fine. It gets you some attention and awareness. But honestly, you're pinned against however that person does too, right? Or how well known they are or whatever. And so for us, it's, if you're going to try and make a statement about you're a global anything, you need to do it on a global scale. And so we chose the UFC because the demographics for the UFC match the type of people who are going to be the most likely to adopt using cryptocurrency first, which are your people that are between probably 17 and 40 years old. They make a medium to a little bit over medium pay, and most likely the majority of them are like 72% male, but there's enough females in there that it's definitely worth it.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like a great opportunity to let the world know that we were serious about having Litecoin as a currency for the world. And I will tell you, the networking opportunities that came out of there from just being at the event. So Charlie was there, I was there, John Kim was there, and John Eidson, the marketing director. We were all there.
Mm-hmm.
Talked to different people from different companies. We got to talk to even different fighters, so on and so forth. It turned out to be a great experience just from that alone. But there was so much more that happened beyond that. Well, I had so many emails coming in after that sponsorship. It was ridiculous. I mean, I'm still getting some residual emails now, and that was already in the end of December, right?
That's right.
So you're talking 3 months later, and you still have people.
People are still talking about it and still asking about when you're going to the next one. So it went from, why the hell is Litecoin going to UFC? And it's turned into, when are you going to the next one, and keep the name out there, the brand. And I'm amazed at how that's transformed the brand into something that became, it went from Litecoin, just the coin, into suddenly Litecoin's not just a coin. And it's not just sponsoring the UFC. It's actually getting adoption. And that's kind of triggered an event that's led to suddenly, I've noticed an increase, if I could say, in the amount of adoption people seem to be taking, because you put yourselves on the map at a public, let's call it, general population, not us crypto geeks, but people who are in the normal general population, who are starting to say, what's crypto? And saying, oh, this Litecoin thing, we seem to hear about that all the time. We've heard of Bitcoin, we've heard of Ethereum, and now Litecoin, oh, what's that? And so it's transformed quite a lot, I think, the brand, and given you a real place now.
Yeah. A few weeks before that event, I had been to the event in Milwaukee, and that was my first time ever being at a UFC event, and I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
And so I was there with John Kim, and he was explaining how all the different aspects of the sport work, and I was sitting next to this guy. He was a business owner in Milwaukee, and so we were there to visit Ben Askren, who's a fighter, and these other guys were there. They were invited by another fighter who gave them some tickets. And so we're all sitting there, and he starts talking to me about where he's from and what he does. And so he asked me what I do. So I tell him, and so then he goes, oh yeah, that Bitcoin, I know this and this about the volatility, and it's used for nefarious deeds and blah, blah, blah. And I let him, everything that everybody tries to tell you about the crypto space. And so I let him get through everything, and then I gave him my points back. And so we had this discussion. There's probably 2 or 3 other people sitting around us to start listening, right? And so you could tell they didn't know anything about anything. And so he would say something, and they were, really taking in what he was saying. And then I would say something, and they were taking what I was saying.
Right.
And it dawned on me that this is the perfect type of audience, because it not only dispels what this guy is saying, but it educates the people that are sitting behind him, right?
Right.
And it worked out really, really well. And by the end of that night, him and I, we shook hands, we talked a little bit, and then he asked if I could ever get a hold of him again and talk some more about it. So it worked out in the positive, which was really good.
Great. That's fantastic. Really cool.
Yeah. And so from the UFC, it just, it born itself into a few other things. So now we also have a partnership with Glory Kickboxing, which is another combat sport. It's also global as well. So it's not in one specific area, and it's not one specific fighter, but they went one step further. And we're not only doing a regular, like a traditional partnership with them where we have, our spot on the map and on the mat and stuff like that, but it's also they integrated Litecoin as a form of payment on their merchandise site. So you can buy anything on the merchandise site with Litecoin, really? And then
nice.
We're going to do a few events where they actually take a section of seats, and you can only buy them with Litecoin.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's very cool.
So so that's how we ended up doing that deal with them, and they've been really great about that. We're just getting started with that one though, but
sure.
A lot of people ask where we're at with the UFC, just like you did, and so we're still in talks with them. So the first time was really just a sponsorship. You throw your name on a mat. Here you go. Here's some extra seats. Have a good time, and we'll talk some more later. And then we get into the regular talks, and it's much more involved, right? Because now you're talking about, for us, the mantra is, okay, fine, we did the sponsorship, which is great, but from this point on, people need to understand that we're in this to raise awareness and for adoption of the coin. And in order to do that, if you want to have some kind of a partnership with us, you have to activate payment of Litecoin along in the partnership. Otherwise, it's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And you also have to understand we're there for Big Daddy too, right? So anything that we do, we take Bitcoin with us. So we're not going to be the only payment option. Bitcoin will be there too.
Yeah.
Because that's how it should work. But yeah, if you can't integrate, you're not going to participate.
Fair enough.
Good. Fair enough. Yeah. So with where you're going in the future, are you looking for more events, like event types of payments, or are you looking to sponsor like larger, like a clothing retail company or other areas to expand the message?
Yeah, so as you might know, we had the Mammoth Film Festival. So we went out to a film festival in Mammoth Lakes, California, and we participated out there. All of the winners of the movies received some Litecoin. We got to talk to some directors and actors, and it was really good. It ended up a really good networking experience on top of it. Since then, we've had a few other festivals get a hold of us as well, and so we're looking. Obviously the movie space is a big space because that's international as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have an Oscar-nominated producer that actually volunteers for the foundation, and so
Oh, really? That's pretty cool.
That's great.
that helps. I mean, we have all kinds of people that help. It's really amazing, and they just go, hey, I'd like to volunteer. I'm just a gal or a guy who wants to help. Doesn't matter what my real title is in regular life.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to help. And so it got us into that space a little bit. So we'll branch out more into the entertainment industry as far as movies and things like that. And then we're looking at, obviously, there's the music industry as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'll dip our toe in that. Hopefully here soon. And then obviously there are other areas. I remember one of the criticisms while we were doing the UFC thing was, why wouldn't you get into gaming? Gaming's the biggest new sport in the world. It's growing exponentially.
Oh, true. Yeah, because you could have Litecoin being used within the games, and you could even have like the game with the Litecoin song.
Right.
Who's to say we're not, right? Who's to say? I'm not telling you, but yeah. Who's to say we're not doing that, or who's to say that we're not thinking about doing that?
Well, just give us the links and we'll put it down below so people can check it out.
We'll put it in no man's land, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you guys have got quite a roadmap in terms of what you're trying to do, where you're heading.
Yeah, everything has to be a far-reaching type of a thing. It has to be something where there's payment integration in some capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's even some where it's like I mentioned earlier, we're a nonprofit. So, I mean, what are some ways that we can create some revenue streams? So, I mean, look at the K-pop production that we're going to be doing April 6th in Fairfax, Virginia. That's the first concert of hopefully many where we're involved with doing, K-pop concerts. And that, that helps the foundation create some revenue, but it also puts awareness out in an area that we haven't been a part of necessarily at this point. And I mean, Asia is a big deal for crypto, and
Mm-hmm.
South Korea is a very crypto friendly country for the most part. And I mean, what better way to get involved there than the thing that most Koreans love, which is K-pop. I mean, they're just crazy over this stuff. So
Oh yeah.
but you start small. You don't have to go for the home run immediately, and that's what we tell a lot of people who try and pitch. They want to get Amazon right away on board, or they want to get Facebook or just go and, it's okay to get a walk in singles too. Those all add up.
I mean, it's like with anything when you're growing a business, you can't expect to just start at the top. You have to start somewhere and you build out from there. So,
right.
If you get into K-pop, then you're hitting the Korean market. If you're getting into UFC, you're getting into another segment of users who are into the fight scene, but you could spend the money on merchandise and on the seats and on as you said, the teats or the cows, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I couldn't let the teat go.
I was really hoping you didn't hear that, but okay.
No, I just was waiting for my moment. But if you can use Litecoin to get teats, that's cool too,
Yeah, don't ever underestimate the teats.
Don't underestimate the Litecoin.
Yeah. So I mean, why not hit all the different areas? But you have to do it smart. You just don't randomly go around, throwing noodles on a wall and just hoping they all stick. It doesn't work that way.
No, that's for sure. So on a completely different note, and we'll kind of wrap up with something a bit silly, and you don't have to answer the question.
That wasn't silly enough with the teeth?
No, it wasn't. You can always go sillier, of course, because, we're always here to have a bit of fun. Now, this might be a better question to ask Charlie directly, so we may have to ask him to come along at one point, or you bring him with you, and maybe we'll need to ask him to bring Roger, so I think you know where I'm going with this. But one of our users, or one of our followers, Black Bits, that's what his name is on our Telegram channel, asked us the question, will Charlie win the t-shirt bet with Roger? Now, I don't know much about that.